1 can of pumpkin, 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, sugar, and other basic ingredients. I'll be getting to those in just a minute. The first thing I'm going to do is turn the oven on, which I just did. I've turned it on to 425 degrees, and it's heating up to the temperature right now. I used to, many years ago, make my own pie crust. In the past 6-8 years, my hands hurt a lot more. I have arthritis and neuropathy, and you've heard it before in my other videos. But anyways, I've tried these years ago, and they were surprisingly very good. So it's an easy choice to make now. But I will show you a little trick I tried one time, and it works out pretty nice. Instead of using one pie crust, I'm gonna use both of them. I'm gonna lay one on top of the other and roll them together, and you'll see that here in just a second. It makes for these are really thin. So if you run them, if you combine them together, it'll make for a better, thicker crust. It'll be a little flakier, and I like the way it turned out when I did 2 of them together. You may want to flour the countertop a little bit. Don't put any flour between the crust. Shouldn't need a lot. You can always add more if you need to. If you notice that one side that was the center, it's got little ripples or rips in it, whatever. Alternate them. Like this one is on this side. That way it's not the end of the world, but it makes it a little bit easier, I think. And then just roll them out together. Don't make them really thin. Just roll it out so they're good and combined. Make sure they're plenty big enough. That's going to be the pie tin. There's plenty of overlap to cover up these, fill up these sides. Maybe a little bit here, a little more just to be safe. Give it a little once over to make sure that they're both pretty firmly pressed into each other. And that ought to lift up the edge as you press the pie down into the tin. Make sure you get it down there at all the edges properly. And chances are you're going to have a pretty decent overlap because we're using 2 pie crusts. But you can leave it like that if you really wanted to. You can do whatever you want. You can do the old pinch method, where you use one finger and you just go around raising it up, doing it like that. Or you can do it with the other hand. Whatever you want. Raise it up a little bit to do the fancy crimps. You can use 2 hands. And then you can just do a rough tear of these edges. And I'll worry about that later. Just wanted to show you basically the general idea behind it. There's the 1 can of pumpkin pie mix and the 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. And I'm going to add 2 eggs. These are room temperature now. They warmed up room temperature. And to this, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to use a pumpkin pie spice mixture. I used to use the individual cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and cloves, but I came across this a number of years ago and gave it a try. I liked it pretty well. If you don't have this pre-mixed spice mixture available to you, use this. If you don't have the pumpkin pie spice mixture, use 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of ginger, a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and a quarter teaspoon of cloves. Together, that would be 3.5 teaspoons of dry spices. So what I'm going to do, I found that for my taste, that was a little bit light. So I would actually personally, I would double that at least to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a half a teaspoon of cloves. And 3 teaspoons of this mixture. And you can mix it together with a fork. Make sure you get the eggs broken up. You can mix it with a spatula. You can use a blender. Getting it started here. And I'm going to do a couple little things extra here that if you don't want to do these, if you want to leave them out, that's fine. I've got some molasses here. I'm going to put just a little tiny bit in there. Just a little bit. It's maybe a half a teaspoon. I don't want it to overpower the pumpkin. I just want it to add a nice little accent. And I'm also going to add just a little tiny bit, about a teaspoon of peanut butter. You don't have to. It's not necessary if you don't want to. It's all right. Get it all to a good mix. Scrape down the sides. Make sure you get everything blended really well. If there's any little clumps of pumpkin in there, or peanut butter, or whatever, make sure you break them up. And gently spread it out. It's not a bad idea to have a relatively high crust because if it's going to rise up while it's baking, and you don't want it to make a mess in your oven. One option is to put it on a cookie sheet or even a pizza pan so it doesn't make a mess. Put this in your oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Then reduce the temperature down to 350 and let it cook for about 40 to 50 minutes. You can use a thin knife or a skewer and insert it into the near the center of the pie. If it comes out clean and it's looking pretty firm, it should be ready. If it doesn't come out, if the skewer doesn't come out clean, leave it back in for another 5 to 10 minutes. Keep an eye on it so it doesn't burn. And because each oven is different, they don't all heat exactly the same. So you may need to pull it out a little bit early, or you may need to let it go a little bit longer, depending on the actual temperature your oven is at. So, In it goes. 35 minutes. I'm going to give it a little check here. It's pretty clean. A little tiny spot there. It's pretty clean. A couple little spots. I'm going to give it 5 more minutes, I think. That should do it. It's been right at 40 minutes. And it's looking pretty good. You need to let it cool down for, I'd say at the bare minimum, 2 hours. Better yet, give it 4, at least 4 probably. Even let it cool overnight. Once you let it cool down to room temperature, cover it with some plastic wrap or foil, and then put it in the refrigerator for overnight for the following day. I learned not to throw away these crispy pieces of crust and all. Some people really like those. I didn't realize that, and I was throwing some away. And no, that's good stuff. So, so if you get those crispy edges, don't throw them away. There's usually going to be at least one person that will like those. So, so don't worry about that. I'm gonna let it cool, and then I'll make some homemade whipped cream again, like you've seen before. And we'll slice it, and hopefully, I've shown you this before on how to make your own homemade whipped cream. It's pretty easy, so I'll just do it really quickly here for some pumpkin pie I've got, and other pies as well, pecan and whatever you happen to want to have some homemade whipped cream on. Just going to add a little drop of vanilla. I'm going to use, this is some stevia sweetener. If you just want to use regular sugar, that's fine too. I'm going to go ahead and put the whole packet in there. Why not? It's for the holidays. Doesn't take very long with one of these high-speed hand blenders. You can see how thick that is. When you get it pretty thick, that's where you want to stop. If you keep going, you're probably going to have some vanilla flavored sweet butter. So that's about where it needs to be there. It's definitely thick. You can use a blender like this, or a regular mixer, or a stand mixer. You can even whip it by hand with one of those whisks. It takes a while, but you can do it. So that's all there is to the there is the pumpkin pie finished. I put it in the refrigerator overnight. It's been chilling for I guess about 12 hours or so. So it's nice and firm. Ready to be cut. As you probably know, the first piece is always the most difficult to get out. It just wants to fall apart on you. So if it does, we will just deal with it. What you can do when you test it for doneness and you use a knife and you get little marks left over like that, when you slice the pie, use that as a starting point, and then you can put whipped cream on top of it to cover it up if you need to. It's not going to hurt the way it tastes, obviously. Just whatever works best for you. Now, if you want, there's the whipped cream I just made, the homemade whipped cream. You can put some as little or as much as you like. Give it a try. It's super easy. It's definitely better than the pre-made ones. You can never be exactly sure what all is in them. At least in this way you know. And you can make it the way you want. Yeah, here we go. I like the pumpkin flavor. I like the spice flavor. It's a little more intense than most pumpkin pies. That's why I like to make it myself, because you can make it to whatever intensity level you like best. Give it a try. I bet you like it. See you next time on Cook and Gobble videos.